Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tastemakers podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here this week, as we always are, to talk about the latest in the world of TV and film, what's been on, what's coming, and what's happening. With me to talk through it all is Grace. How you doing, Grace?
I'm doing well. I feel like I watched a fair bit of TV. I watched a whole season of A Thing this week, Terrence. So I'm excited to chat about it. I even caught a movie in IMAX. So yeah, excited to talk TV and movies with you, Taryn.
Oh boy. Well, there are some things to talk about this week. 4 seasons dropped on Netflix. The Genius UK started. I watched some of that. And of course, Thunderbolts came out this week. I also want to talk about Weapons, which we've mentioned before, but dropped a trailer and promo stuff recently. Last of Us is still on. Andor. We've got some upcoming things to bring up as well. So plenty to get into today, Grace.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Can we start with Weapons?
Okay, sure. Some trailer news. I thought there's a lot of hype around.
The week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Weapons is the the new movie by Zach Kreger, who made Barbarian, and of course from back in the day was in The Whitest Kids You Know. So his movie accolades are the fantastic Barbarian, the upcoming Weapons, and then you have like Miss March.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very excited about Weapons. So this movie has been hyped pretty dramatically. There's some drama about the acquisition of Weapons. That there was basically a bidding war for the rights to this script that Jordan Peele was involved in, that he was trying to get the rights for this script. Ultimately, it was Jordan Peele with Monkey Paw in partnership with Universal that were trying to get this. But eventually it went to New Line, I believe, and Zach Kreger made $10 million for his total payment on directing and for the script. And so big time. This is big stuff. There's a lot of in the industry, a lot of hype around Zach Kreger and this movie, and people really think that this is going to do very well. It has now released some promo stuff, including a trailer, and it looks really good.
Yeah, it does look really good. I mean, so it is really interesting. I think Jordan Peele being involved is really interesting. I remember
almost involved.
Almost involved, sorry. It's and I mean that in the sense that he was involved with is it Monkey Man? Was it the movie, Dev Patel's movie? And apparently there were some major rewrites and edits Jordan Peele was heavily involved in a way that supposedly people say the final cut is far superior than maybe what had been offered before. The New Line deal includes final cut privilege, although I guess they say that that's pending some test screening reactions, which then makes it seem like it's maybe not final cut privilege if there's that clause in. But I assume it means if it scores high enough in screening tests, then he's allowed to get it a final cut. I presume. The other thing I worry a little bit just about is some of the success of Barbarian was just that it came out of nowhere,
Right.
And so a follow-up film, you obviously want to be excited and you want to they want to release market it and put trailers out there and teasers and whatever, but I'm there is that piece of it that boy, I hope it can just be as good as even Barbarian. If it's as good as Barbarian, that's a massive success. So Barbarian was very fun to talk at the town. Aaron and I both loved it. We talked about it on Post Recap Theater back in the day. Very excited for Kreger to have a new movie coming out. So this is an early August film, which is also a little interesting in terms of time. It should be fun because it's a horror movie, but August generally has been one of the second dumping grounds of the year. But hopefully, early August is fine. But yeah.
It's very interesting. I feel like Barbarian was a big hit. I mean, it did very well in terms of making a lot of money because they were making on a low budget, which is typically the case for horror. Um, but it was strange to me that there was such hype around Zach Kreger to the point where these studios are offering him so much money because you don't usually see like I feel like I don't usually see studios have the same opinion on filmmakers that I do. Like, if I
Yeah.
were in charge, I would want Zach Kreger to be making something because Barbarians was really good, and he has a long history as as somebody who's made good content. But the fact that that everybody was really into this script and really wanted to produce it, very interesting stuff. But yeah, I'm excited for Weapons. We'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
Yep.
Any other news items?
I mean, we're so far out from this actually happening, but it sounds like the writers' room for Shogun season 2 is wrapped up, and they're going to go into production on their season 2 pretty soon, which is kind of fun. And if you do want to know the smallest bit of detail about what they're doing in terms of this being a show that was based on one book and does seem to have a fairly definitive ending in terms of like, okay, well then what are you going to do next? There are some details specifically on the Hollywood Reporter. They're like so minor that I'm like hesitant to. I feel like at some point this, I'm just going to say it. It's picking up 10 years later. That's the news out of the writers' room. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's interesting because I mean you might be wondering like, wait, they just finished writing? Like the season aired so long ago, they haven't even started filming yet. And that's because I would imagine that number one, they didn't expect to be making a season two,
Yeah.
because it was based on a book. They covered the whole book. Then it was so successful that they were like, oh, let's make a season two. We'll write new material. So they had to, after the season had already aired and got all the attention and then was renewed, start not only writing season two, but like completely fabricate like, okay, if there's a season two, what's it going to be? And apparently they just finished that process.
Yeah.
So I think on one hand, it's kind of good that it took them so long because they didn't just rush into like churning something out. On the other hand, I'm still fairly skeptical about like creating a whole sequel out of nowhere. And we'll see.
Yeah. Dexter announced a premiere date in Dexter Resurrection in July. So that's kind of fun. I'm kind of that cast is such an eclectic group of people. It's Uma Thurman and what's his name? Peter Dinklage and Neil Patrick Harris. I think as eclectic as you can get for a series of people who are going to be in a Dexter television show, but kind of fun, I think, in the sense that like when it was just Uma Thurman, we're like, well, she's going to be the bad guy, I think that, and then they're like, actually, Peter Dinklage is here, like, oh, maybe it could be one of them. It's like also Neil Patrick Harris, like, oh, I guess it could be any one of these people could be the bad guy. So that's kind of fun, I think. Yeah. Last bit of news is for me, North of North is this Netflix comedy. It is a Canadian co-production, I believe, between the CBC and Netflix, but it got renewed for a second season. And I feel like just like so rare for these little, I feel like Netflix, I mean, maybe not after a second season, like sometimes they do get a second season, but good sign. This is a show, North of North. It's about a girl who lives in Iqaluit, northern Canada. The main star here, I think, can't remember her name, but she was in True Detective North Country. Is that the name of that season? Is that the name of the True Detective season? Doesn't matter. She was in it. She was in True Detective. Yeah. Anyway, I just show it's quite good. I like it. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest show to drop this week was the Four Seasons.
Yes.
New Tina Fey show. This is actually based on a movie.
An Alan Alda movie.
Yes. From when did that come out actually?
It came in the 80s, I think.
The 80s,
1981. Yeah.
Look.
I know. It's great. It's great. So good.
It's
got a great cast.
I didn't even know, written and directed by Alan Alda as well.
It's Alan Alda, Carol Burnett, Rita Moreno. It's a great cast. It's really good. Yeah.
He does make a brief appearance, at least in the so I've watched about 2.5 episodes of this.
I watched all 8 episodes, Taran, so it's very fun.
Yes. So he does. Alan Alda does make an appearance, at least in those 2 episodes. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I think I was hoping it would be more, but it is still totally enjoyable. Totally like put it on, have a good time. And it's not gonna, at least so far, it's not gonna like totally kill me laughing or make me super sad or like feel things, but it's like a fun show to have on for me so far.
Yeah. So part of the thing that I heard about the show was that basically Tina Fey was like, I'm going to take up Netflix on basically the Adam Sandler deal, where I'm just going to get to go around to a bunch of really nice places and hang out with my friends. And the one thing I think the thing that this show has going for it over anything else is, even if it's not the funniest thing I've ever seen, I really enjoy spending time with Tina Fey, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, Steve Carell, the other cast members like as well, but those to me are like I just love them all so very much and think that they're very fun. In particular, like Tina Fey and Coleman Domingo's characters in the show have a very fun dynamic. So Tina Fey and Will Forte's character, they're married in the show. And I don't know if you started the third episode, but like there is this premise of like, I guess I understood why it was called The Four Seasons What You See It, which is like it does, the show does take place over a year, and about every 2 episodes it's like they're there and then they leave and then they're on another trip basically, which I had not watched the movie, so I didn't know. I actually quite like that premise. It's not about like a week at a vacation. It's about these group of friends who figure out how to spend time together on sort of vacation. It's not always vacation, but somewhat like that. And I totally agree with you. I was hoping it would be a little bit better than I thought it was, but it's perfectly acceptable. I watched all 8 episodes in one day. That's I and was like perfectly happy to do so. So I definitely think you can feel where it was a movie and they're making it into a television show, a little bit, but I don't want to say anything more because it's basically about like how the story of season 1 wraps up, which is quite interesting, I think. And I think when you've watched it, we could if you do watch it, we could touch base later. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
There was something that was a little interesting to me, which was that because again, like the first time I heard about this was basically Tina Fey talking about like, wanting to hang out with her friends in fun locations.
Yeah.
And sort of, I think the thing you would go to immediately is White Lotus. This idea of people going on vacation in cool locations. And it does have these sort of like establishing shots of like, oh, look at this pretty place that they're at. But it is so much less indulgent in that. Again, from the couple episodes I've seen so far, these are clearly people who are wealthy enough to go on these nice vacations, and just hang out and do whatever they want, basically. But perhaps not quite as super wealthy as the White Lotus people. But it is definitely not interested in indulging in any of that gaudy wealth, sort of not worship, but like that thing that the White Lotus does. And I thought that was interesting because number one, I thought it would lean into that a little more. And number two, it was interesting just because like it's a similar setting, but treated so differently. And it was, I just noticed that like there's so much you can do just with like the cinematography and slight changes in where you spend your time with the camera in how you feel about that. That I thought it was interesting.
I feel like even though these characters are rich and basically kind of go on like 4 vacations a year or whatever, but the show, they are not they have very relatable character problems. They don't have unrelatable.
These are not like
people.
It's not white. It's not like rich people problems. Or maybe. But.
And the other piece of it is that they also like for the idea that like I'm gonna go and film at all of these. I'm gonna go and film at a location where I'm basically gonna get to like hang out at a resort. Like I'm sure that's not actually true because the show is filmed at like at the very least 4 to 5 different locations. So the idea that you would like go and like, yeah, you probably do get to go. You get to go to these really nice places, but it's not as if then you are like hanging out there. Like some of the whole thing about the White Lotus stuff was that they were like going on excursions, and I don't know how much like this cast of crew, because of probably how limited they were like at each resort, probably actually spent there. I don't know.
Maybe her experience making the show made her realize, oh, I should do this, but
Right,
just at
right.
one location.
Right. Next season, it's like the one season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the other big thing that came out this week was Thunderbolts. And it came out to great reviews and high cinema score, and people seem to really like Thunderbolts. I have not seen it yet.
I really liked Thunderbolts. I thought it was really good. I don't know that I'm like, you know, it's certainly is probably the best Marvel movie of the last like there's a little bit I think in this phase like the Spider-Man stuff and maybe Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is sort of considered like those are the good ones, and then everything else has been like, you know,
Better than
fine.
Deadpool.
Yes. So I think it was pretty good. I think it gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's really funny. I do think for what it's worth, it does have old school Marvel feel, where it does feel like the comedy is quite on point. There is this like the characters are quite charming in a way that it becomes very rootable. I think the villain and sort of story of this movie is quite strong to the point where it's like I think it's working for people who are not like mega Marvel heads, you know, people who are not so like there is a theme of mental health in this movie that I think actually plays quite strongly. I liked it a lot. I saw it in IMAX. People were quite fun. I think the like stay for a post credit scene, it does a thing. Like I'm not going to spoil it, but I feel like it's so there was so much intent behind what they were going to do in that moment that I think is way better. I feel like there is a very clear like this is what we're doing right now, which I think is like extremely good for them rather than what it felt like maybe at the beginning of post Endgame was like we're going to throw a lot of stuff out, and then like if it works or it doesn't work we'll figure it out. There might still be some of that going on in Marvel, but for the most part this felt like we know what we're doing here and where we want to go next with it in a way that I felt was very refreshing. So I enjoy it. I recommend people go see it. I mean, unless you're not into Marvel, and then you won't like it because it's just Marvel, you know. But yeah,
I mean, I felt like low expectations must have helped, right? Like, I don't think
yeah.
anybody like was waiting for Thunderbolts to come in, and I mean, I don't even know. Like, I guess Thunderbolts probably is an established thing, but it's not like a very well known. It is very much more so Guardians of the Galaxy than it is like Spider-Man.
So there was some talk about like whether or not going into this movie, like, is there an expectation of like, what is this sort of in the world that like, what is this in the Marvel stuff we know? Like, is this like essentially like a new Avengers, or is this like a Guardians of the Galaxy crew? And I
I
do
mean,
think over the
I will
course
say
of the movie, yeah,
the vibe I had from the trailer was this was just Suicide Squad, but Marvel.
yeah, yeah, totally fair. Yeah. Um, I had fun. I think that I was in a pretty like packed theater. I will say, Taran, and I'm gonna say this and acknowledge all the privilege I've had over the last few months. So I've got to interview some very cool people, and so like my life is great. I've got to interview Alex and Greg from Taskmaster and Jason Mantzoukas and Tom Hardy, and my life is fine. I will say I went to the like 5 p.m. movie screening, and then I got out of it, and there was a huge line for the next one, and then it turns out Julia Louis-Dreyfus did the intro like in the theater for the 7 p.m. one. Kevin Jacobs was there. Shout out Kevin Jacobs. You know, my life is fine. I've met a lot of, you know, I've got to do cool stuff. I was a little annoyed that I went to the 5 p.m. showing.
Kevin Jacobs didn't give you the heads up.
I don't know. It did seem like maybe it was like you had to get on some sort of. They had special badges that I didn't have, and I was just trying to see it basically like as soon as I was done work, you know. So yeah, I know Kevin. Yeah, come on.
The Genius UK started this week. I thought this was funny. I made a video about this actually on my YouTube channel. I'm still having trouble finding it on IMDb. Basically the show started. So Genius is a reality show. Here it is, Genius Game. It's a reality show that is sort of like heavily based on more complexity. The idea is that they cast smart people to play smart games.
Yeah.
It aired on ITV in the UK. And what I've been told, and I have not done extensive research on this, but what I've been told by people who live in the UK is that ITV is not known for its smart programming.
I mentioned Stewart. I'll mention Stewart again if I can pull it up. He had a great comment, basically some explanation about this exact type of back and forth that I'll pull up as you're. I have not watched it yet, so yeah.
Yes. Well, basically, as it was airing, people were flooding Twitter and other places, just being like, "This show's too complicated. I can't follow what's happening. This show is too smart. Like this is stupid. Because it's too smart. I can't understand what's happening." And I don't know how well it did with the ratings. But I thought that was a very interesting response to a show. I loved the original in South Korea. They've recently done The Devil's Plan, which we will actually talk about.
That got
today.
heavily promoted to me on Netflix. It was like, you should be watching The Devil's Plan. I was like, I've seen it.
Here's the background. That the people that made the Genius in Korea, which again, it's like this. They made it 10 years ago. They had like celebrities and smart people on the cast playing these interesting games. Heavy cult favorite in the reality TV world for people that love strategy, and I think did pretty well in Korea. Was then adapted in the UK. I believe there's like a Netherlands version right now, or the UK right now, not the Netherlands versions. And now seems to struggle to find an audience in the UK. In the meantime, the original creators of the Genius in Korea have gone on to make The Devil's Plan, which is a sort of spiritual successor to the Genius. Basically functions and operates very similarly.
Yeah.
This is on Netflix. And to my mind, actually, I think a great evolution of the original show. Really, really good season one. I loved it. I mentioned recently that like the last like 10 out of 10 TV shows I watched were was like The Last of Us, but The Devil's Plan that year was also a 10 out of 10 for me. It was just phenomenal. The Devil's Plan season 2 is starting this week. So you have tons of like great strategic reality TV content if you want. I put out a video of myself. I tried a new thing, Grace. I filmed myself watching the first episode of Genius, reacting in real time, and then edited it together so that you can watch me and the show simultaneously in a video. And people seem to like it a lot. It was very fun.
Popped up on my YouTube feed. I just haven't watched the episode yet. So
wow, look at that.
I know, but I'll watch it. So Stewart, who lives in the UK, he has some stuff about like that he's a little annoyed, like the press, the way that the press is covering the show. But he said also doesn't help that it's on ITV, which has the likes of Love Island and similar lowbrow shows on it. If this was a BBC Two show, it would have been more at home with an audience. But alas, ITV wanted their own traders, so here we are. He later says, to prove our media isn't entirely dumb, please look up the show Only Connect. It's the most stupidly humored and at times difficult game shows ever, and the New York Times essentially stole it to create their connections game. This is by Victoria Corn Mitchell, and it's like a hard version of Connections, where like you just like you get one. I think you might get like the first clue, and then another one will come up, and like the sooner you can figure out what the thing. So if you can like get the connection with only 2 words, you get more points than if you can actually get it with like 1 clue. That's like the most points. So like it's not like the UK doesn't have these like challenging sort of shows that like can be a little bit complicated. It's just that like, yeah, maybe it wasn't exactly the right network for that to be on. I'm
Well,
excited. I love David Tennant, so I'll check it out.
that's kind of the thing, is that like this is such a hybrid of a more complicated game show,
Yes.
but very much in the format of a sloppier reality show.
Right.
And so I've always been curious to know if a show like The Genius could work in the US, really.
Still
But
coming,
like,
supposedly.
we'll
There was a
see.
casting call at the very least that I know many people in our circles applied for. So,
Mhm.
I mean, speaking
Um,
of new shows, this game show Taskmaster premiered its first episode of its new season, and
mhm.
I gotta say, it's a delight. It's great. I loved it. All the tasks are fun. It's a variety of different comedians. Jason Mantzoukas is on it this season. It's really good. And I said this in the article with Jason. I asked them about like, obviously we'll hope people will watch this new season, but like, what is your recommendation? I asked this to Alex and Jason, like, where do you point people to if they want to like start the show? And it's like, it's funny because I think you can just start within the first episode, but what do you do? And Jason was talking about the clips are really great and there's full episodes on there. And I said, yeah, one time I showed my dad a task and I thought my dad might die from laughing so hard. And Greg chimed in and said, "Oh, that's great." The first thing Jason ever said to us when he asked to be on the show, he says, "I'd specifically love to kill a parent." I watched the episode and I haven't seen my dad laugh as hard as he has in a while watching the first episode of this new season. And I think he said out loud, "Wow, it's so delightfully stupid." Is what my dad said. So, separate from The Genius, if you would like a stupid game show,
Mm.
may I suggest Taskmaster, my favorite television show.
Any other new things you watched?
I did watch a few new things. So let me start with English language stuff first, which I watched Miss Austen. This is the first episode of sort of the Jane Austen show. It's on BBC in the UK. I want to like this a little more. I found it a little bit slow. I think it's clearly well acted, but just a little bit slow moving for me, which I'm going to stick with because
Mhm.
it's only 4 episodes. So I think I'll try to just watch the rest of it. I think if you're like looking at this, it's like a PBS BBC show. Like I think you could pretty much tell the tone of the show. And it's about Jane Austen. Like, I think most people will like it, and maybe you'll like it a little bit more than me. As like a history person, I like it. So that was fun. I also
Yeah.
watched this. Yeah,
I don't
sorry,
I
go
don't
ahead.
remember if I mentioned it, but I did watch the first episode of this a little while ago, and I did not enjoy it.
Fair enough. Um, there was an Argentinian show that came out this week called the Eternaut. I've watched the first episode. All 6, I believe, are up on Netflix. This is based on a book, and it's about a group of survivors where there's an alien invasion during like a you can see if you're looking on the YouTube, it's very like cold, it's winter environment. I thought the first episode there's enough for me to keep going. It's not amazing, but I thought it was like pretty good. And to be honest, I am hoping at some point I will find like the next Dark on Netflix. Like maybe they're doing, an international sci-fi drama. Like, all right, let's try it out. So I actually think I'll keep going. I haven't actually seen a ton of things other than it's really high up in the charts, which I feel like mostly the times those are region specific. So I feel like it's interesting that like an um like an Argentinian drama is so high. It's number 3 in TV shows as of today. So I feel like that's like interesting. That could,
Yeah.
And then the last thing I watched, which is probably my favorite I like the 4 seasons the most, but of these sort of like other things, I watched Careme, Careme, which is the Apple CA. It's Careme is the name of this, I believe is how you spell it. Yeah, Carême. It's a French show on Apple TV Plus about a chef who works during the French Revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte is a big piece of this show. I really liked it. I liked it a lot. First 2 episodes are out, and then it's going to release weekly. I mean, it is. I think you have to kind of like this type of show. Like you have to like sort of the like um historical, like romance drama thing. There is a little bit of action. Like it's not entirely romance based. Like the first episode kind of revolves around the fact that there's some way in which Napoleon Bonaparte's his life gets saved, and then this chef gets hired to make something, and like Bonaparte wants to like have it be something that will like offend the British guests who are there, and there's this whole controversy about like what dessert am I going to make that I just thought was like pretty fun. So I the rating on 6.2, maybe people have seen more of the show and it's like not great. I kind of like.
Only 200 ratings, so.
That's right. That's a lot. Yeah, that's only a few. So I kind of like Careme. I'm kind of excited to watch more. And I have to say, the other two shows are all shows that like have dropped all of their entirely. And there's something about that. I'm like, wait, I have one more of Careme, and then I can kind of like leave it for a bit, you know. So that's that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Andor, which dropped another batch of episodes and is about to drop its third batch of episodes. I really enjoyed the second batch. I thought it was very good. And I will say, I'm happy to say that this upcoming batch of episodes, which you may be about to watch or have already watched by the time you listen to this, depending on when you listen to this, phenomenal batch of episodes. Is the third batch of episodes is really, really good.
I think I keep saying this, and I think we had some disagreement on this and not like a major disagreement, just like, oh, I wouldn't say that. I think it's the best stuff in Andor. I think this batch that's going to come out is like the best Andor stuff. I don't think that's true of I think season 1, like there's more consistently great, like better, like great episodes. But this batch, there's something about it that that was like really excellently done. So it's sort of the bar I'm giving it, which I feel bad because now some people are like, it's not the best ever, and you actually ruined it for me. But that's my opinion, and I will say it. So it's really good. I'm excited for people to see it and to see the reaction as people are watching it. And I certainly think the second batch was better than the first batch. So it's getting better.
I also want to bring up The Last of Us. We did just record a podcast on episode 4. We did the deep dive on it. So if you want detailed thoughts, make sure you check out that recap. I think the like headlines though are that season 2 has taken a bold direction, and that is not unsurprising given the game. What's interesting to me is that I feel like I'm seeing more and more negativity around the show, primarily from people who have played the game, which is very common in the world of adaptations, especially like I think as time goes on, people get more critical of changes, is what I've sort of noticed. But what's interesting to me is that I anticipated that season 2 might face some criticism because the second game itself is very controversial. But it's actually sort of, I think, a situation where the people who were critical of the game also want the show to fail, and so are kind of jumping on the train of criticizing the show for not being the game, even though they also didn't love the game, which is very interesting to me. But I'm just always curious about like response to adaptation, because the kinds of criticism that that these kinds of shows or adaptations get is always not interesting in terms of trying to actually analyze the show, but interesting in a more general sociological sense.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I do feel like there is like a little bit of like, I think if you go to the Reddit, for example, there's like, I think probably like 5 different discussions that are like, I'm not sure this worked for me. I think that the changes they made earlier, like, are now affecting this point of the season. I don't like how this character, like, there's 5 different versions of that that have all like made their way up to the charts, which, feels like it's something. And well, yeah.
Sorry, what is interesting to me is that I did manage to find a totally show only like thread,
right?
And none of the people in that thread had any of the issues that the people who had played the game had. Like, where people who play the game are like, well, this change means that you don't feel this way, and then like top comments in the other thread are like, I feel this way.
Right. Yeah. I feel like right now there's in addition to The Last of Us, I feel like I'm liking Your Friends and Neighbors. The studio I think has still been good. I feel like there's just like a The Rehearsal. I haven't watched this newest episode, but I will probably watch it tonight. I just feel like there's like we're at a pretty decent amount. Like if you're just looking for like something good to watch every week, I don't think it's that hard to find something.
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing really well with lots of good stuff, and I would say lots of okay. There are a few great shows on right now, which is great.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there are lots of good shows.
Right.
Lots of shows that are just totally good. Not even acceptable levels, a little bit above acceptable. Just like they're just actively good, not great, but they're just good, and you can throw them on and have a good time.
Yeah. I think that I believe it was at around the end of June last year, which would have made sense in terms of that's halfway through the year. We did a little bit of like best shows of the year so far. And that was helpful for us to do because we had not been podcasting the full year up to that point. So it was a good way for us to talk about stuff that had come out, but we'll have to revisit whether or not it's worth doing a, some sort of official ranking. The other one, I know that last year, the weekend program gave out they did a bracket for the best television streamers or networks. And my thing to you is like, I feel like we should have a yearly power ranking where we are like, this is what's at the top of the power ranking this year. And we could every year look back and be like, Netflix bumped down a spot after, in terms of like what we would say people should, if you only have one of them, which one should you have, Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we definitely in June we can. I think it'd be very fun to put together like what are the best shows so far, because I think there's a ton of options so far
agreed.
this year.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to catch up on?
Not to catch up. Game Changers, the other thing, it's another Dropout show as well. They've dropped their first 3 episodes this season so far, have just been actually all delightful. Game Changer is the Sam Rice, the first one, Grant O'Brien show. Up top, this is the game show where every episode the rules change. And I just think it's tremendous. It's so good. This is on Dropout TV description. This is very fun. Yeah, it's great. We're checking out. If you're looking for something pretty light to watch, I would recommend Game Changer.
All right.
Oh, and sorry, I was on television, Taran, this week. You could see the back of my head twice as I appeared on Restaurant Wars on Top Chef, but just the back of my head for 2 minutes. I believe Chantal Francis's nose and the back of Haley Strong's head also made appearances, as all the Canadians, all the Toronto, Ontario-based RHAPers were trying to represent on Top Chef this week.
I mean, eventually you'll get like a full Frankenstein body.
That's right. Right now we have 2 back of heads and 1 nose.
All right. Well, we already mentioned that The Devil's Plan season 2 is dropping this week. The other big show to come this week, Poker Face season 2 will be dropping on Netflix. Netflix has a big week this week.
Big week. This should be fun. If you're not familiar with Poker Face, I would highly recommend you go back and watch season 1. It's available on Peacock, and it is basically a, case of the week style thing. Charlie Cale is played by Natasha Lyonne. She's on a road trip across the United States. She stops in somewhere. The rest of the cast is essentially like anthology every episode, where it's like Natasha Lyonne with 5 celebrities or whatever, and she's got a
bumbling detective is the first genre.
That's right. And her superpower is that she can always tell when someone's lying. aka nobody has a poker face when they are talking with Natasha Lyonne. Super fun. Really looking forward to, like, if you look at the cast list for like who's going to appear in season 2, it's like a bevy of amazing comedians and actors. So very
sorry,
fun.
I said Netflix, but this says Peacock. I must have been remembering it wrong. I remembered watching it on Netflix, but I guess I was wrong.
Maybe they sold it for a bit to Netflix.
Maybe I'm thinking of her other show that I think was
Russian Doll.
Russian
Is
Doll.
that the one? Yeah, that was a Netflix show. Yeah. This is from Ryan Johnson, who also did like all the Knives Out movies. So like it has some like murder mystery credentials attached to it.
I mean, this I think perfectly slots into what I was talking about. A good show that you can put on and have a good time watching.
100% agree. Yeah.
Few movies coming out. One of them is another movie that I saw too much of a trailer for. Friendship.
I saw this at the Toronto National Film Festival as a part of a midnight mass. I try to do just one midnight mass movie every year, which is a movie that starts at midnight. This movie is very fun. If you like, I think you should leave. This is essentially a long sketch, but it is not the like. So like Tim Robinson's character, there are times where he's like the most ridiculous version of his of like a character that he plays. I would say this one is like the more like socially awkward one, and then Paul Rudd is kind of playing like a lesser version of essentially his character from Anchorman, kind of, where like he's a cool dude, basically. And so it's just that dynamic for like an hour and a half, and I really liked it, and I'm very excited to go see it again because
I mean, I have not seen this movie, so I don't know how much the trailer spoiled or ruined, but I felt like when I watched the trailer, I was very mad that I watched the trailer, and that I would have much preferred watching the movie without having seen anything from the trailer.
yeah,
So that would be my recommendation without having seen it yet.
fair enough.
There's also Fight or Flight is coming. Oh my god, this is another movie where I feel like I watched the whole movie by watching the trailer.
This also feels like it's giving me the type of movie we talk about all the time, where it's like Nobody, which is
Yeah.
coming, like that. Like,
This reminded me a lot of Bullet Train in
okay,
terms
all
of
right.
tone, but Bullet Train was great, and I
I
don't
like
expect this
Bullet
to be.
Train. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Josh Hartnett, his fun. It's I don't mind him.
Yeah. And then I also saw that there's a movie called Clown in a Cornfield.
Yep. Friendo the
uh,
Clown.
yeah, this is made by Eli Craig, who did Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is a cult classic. So horror comedy is kind of his specialty, and so
So,
probably
so
be pretty fun.
So sometimes what happens to me is at the movies, Taran, I'll be like, I'll have my headphones in because I don't really want to watch stuff. And then like something will come on. I'm like, oh, I actually don't like, I'll watch the trailer for that. I'll like, or like, it'll be like, oh, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is. So I'll like take my headphones out and start watching. I, something came up, was like Clown in a Cornfield. I was like, nah, I think I'm okay. I put my headphones back in and listen to my podcast again. That's kind of how I feel about Clown in a Cornfield, but maybe it'll be a surprise hit. Who knows?
I need to do that. I need headphones because sometimes I'm like, I'm just trying to not listen, but you can't. It's just too hard.
You gotta have a podcast, someone ready, or whatever, and
Yeah.
just be on your phone and tune it out, tune whatever
Mm.
thing is happening. Yeah.
All right. Anything else to mention?
I don't think so. I feel like, I feel like we kind of end up in these waves, I think, a little bit, where like most of the time we're like, we have a bunch of good stuff like happening. And I feel like we're not in the time where like a lot of like a bunch of new stuff is about to come out. So, other than Poker Face, which I'm pretty, and even that one will be weekly. So it will keep us sustained for a little bit. But yeah.
You know what? That I remember watching Poker Face weekly, so it definitely wasn't Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I think that they did a little bit of like a batch. They like dropped 3 and then they were weekly or something. But
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, I am excited for basically like a bunch of like between that and Friendship, I feel like. Devil's Plan season 2.
There's
Yeah.
always been at least one to maybe even 2 like good solid things coming up every week. So I don't think we're like slowing down necessarily, but yeah, nothing like major coming.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
All right then. I think that's what we have for you this week on the Tastemakers.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Stay
Stay
tuned.
subscribed.
I'm on social media at Hi from Grace or Go for Grace. Check out my stuff at Parade. I did interview Jason Mantzoukas, Alex Horn, and Greg Davies from Taskmaster, and yeah, some other cool stuff. So yeah, check it out.
Check out our Andor recaps, our Last of Us recaps. And if you want to check out the sort of like watch along reaction video I did for the Genius UK, you can find that over on my YouTube channel. It's just my name. That's all. Yeah, that's about what we have for you. Thank you all so much for joining us here today on the Tastemakers, and we will see all of you next time.